Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're going to be playing Cookie Crime Part 3. Now, I don't believe I've actually featured Part 1 or 2. I am fairly sure I've actually started to solve 2 and then I paused, thinking that looks like a fantastic puzzle to actually feature on the channel, and by the time I got back to it, lo and behold, Part 3 is already out. This is of course the return of Sandra and Nala, and I believe we're essentially going to be hunting down a cookie thief today. Anything to mention before we take a look at today's puzzle? I mean, you can see in the background here, it's a squirrel that's the cookie thief. I imagine if it is outdoors, it will be a squirrel, but I have no idea. We're going to read the rules and the lore together with today's puzzle of Cookie Crime Part 3. On the Scent by Sandra and Nala. Now, to try and fit the rules on the screen, I actually removed, frankly, like a ton of the background and the lore. Of course, all of it, and the fact that the rules are probably a little bit compressed to make them readable. So, as usual, you got links down below to play, as well as kind of the detailed description and etc. etc. But let me quickly take you through it. So Nala's gathered enough information to have a good idea about the identity of the cookie thief. And the best part is she knows where to look for him. All she has to do is follow the scent she was able to pick up from the shed fur she found. Oh, shed fur. Okay. Sorry, I when I first read this, and that's why you can see that in the thumbnail, from the shed, I didn't read the next part, which makes a lot more sense that, yes, the thief shed some fur and she's following that, as opposed to she started tracking it from the shed. I don't know why the cookies would be there. Anyway, an easy job for a nose as good as hers. Follow along if you want to find a cookie thief as well. I have no idea how to even pronounce this rule. Masyu-esque rules apply. So, draw a path that passes through all circled and rectangled cells. Circled, I mean, I'm going to say these are the rectangle cells. They kind of look like square cells, but let's call them rectangles. The path must go straight through the cells with circles, with a turn in at least one of the cells immediately before / after each circle. The path must make a turn in all the rectangles, but must go straight in both cells immediately before / after each rectangle. I think I've played this type of rule before, not necessarily in the context of Sudoku, but in other logic puzzles. The path starts in box 1 on the cell marked with a start, moving in the direction the arrow is pointing. The path ends on the culprit cell. Okay? And there's a bunch of other rules. Let's just process what we've been given. So what we have been told is when you go through a circle, you must go straight through it. You have to. However, you have to then turn either before it or after it. And I assume either qualifies, not both. So not that you would have to, because, it's impossible. You can see that the start, I'm going straight through the circle here, and then I'm going straight through, so I can only turn at one end. I don't know if you could turn at both ends. I don't know if that's the case, but I think that's true, because the next rule is about the rectangles. We'll call them squares, where I have to go straight through the circle, but I must turn inside a square. And then the cells immediately before and immediately after, I have to go straight. So I know, I'm sorry, I'm kind of partially solving it, but I think the rules basically force this particular kind of path, at least in box 1. Okay. Then we've got normal Sudoku, so place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row column. Usual story. The grid is partially covered in fog, and placing correct digits will clear the fog from the surrounding cells, possibly revealing more clues. Digits in circles are odd, and digits in rectangles are even. So these two cells must be even from 2, 4, 6, and 8. These must be 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. For each box the path visits, while it stays within the box, digits along the path must strictly increase from where the path entered the box up to where it leaves the box. kind of think, build your own thermometer. The path is allowed to touch diagonally if it wants to, but it cannot touch itself orthogonally. Digits separated by a white dot and black dot and no negative constraints. Drawings in the grid are simply cosmetic. Right, so I think essentially let's take this as an example. This essentially is creating a 7-cell thermometer where in some order, I didn't even get that right, did I? Yeah, I didn't. So in essence, hang on. No, I did. 7, 8, 9, no. So if this is 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, that's fine actually. 1, 2, 3. And then this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why I kind of screwed up. There you go, 7, 8, 9. So essentially we've got a thermometer that is strictly increasing, and then when you hit a new box, you reset. And whatever the box, whatever this thing does in here, it will reset. Now, interestingly, Sandra's also told us that whilst it's okay for the line to touch itself diagonally, it's not okay for it to touch itself orthogonally. So these cannot be valid. The line is touching itself here. So this line is basically going to have to continue. And again, I'm so sorry. I know that I'm kind of partially solving it at this stage, but just to sort of wrap our heads around the rules. And then somewhere in there are black crop key dots, black and white. You know what those mean. So somewhere in there will be, let's say, a black crop key dot. Imagine that is a dot, not an X, meaning that if this cell is 2, this would have to be 1 or 4, so that one cell is double the other. And if you imagine that this is a white dot, not an X, then it would have to be consecutive, so 1 or 3. And no negative constraints, so 2 with a 4 and a 3 in here, all of that is totally allowed. So that's all the rules we have for today. As always, to play along, link in the description down below for you to do so. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock, see how I get on. That's quite a lengthy intro. So, I think we've done this one to death. I'm not going to explain it. Ta-da! We know that already. And we know with these pencil marks, it's 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8. Again, I made the same mistake. 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9. We also know a few things about evens and odds. This has to be odd, so that can only be a 3. This can only be a 5. This must be even, so that can only be a 6. This can only be an 8. And therefore that has to be a 7, that has to be a 4, and this is 1 or 2. Beautiful. Then we have what looks like a 1, 2, 4 grouping. Not necessarily. So 3 black crop key dots, all visible. So remember, powers of 2, 1, 2, 4, and 8 is a valid set, as are 3 and 6. If you ever have 3 cells in the same box, you know it's not going to be the 3, 6 pair, it's going to be 1, 2, 4, 8. So it's either 1, 2, 4 or 2, 4, 8. This is 2 or 4, and these are from 1, 2, 4, and 8. This is clearly not an 8. This cell, we know because of the path, is bigger, so that's definitely not a 1, and therefore this would have to be 2, this would have to be 4, this would have to be 1. Brilliant. Now, I was going to say this has to continue, but that is not true. You see, the rules are for the squares is that you turn inside them and then you can continue straight on. So this is valid, but as is this one. But then the line would have to touch itself and I have to pass through the square. So I think that is actually forced as such. And it can't turn immediately after. So I'm fairly sure it has to do this. This is even, and it's not 2, 4, or 8. That's got to be a 6. This has to be bigger. It's not a 7. That has to be 8. That has to be 9. And then I absolutely have to leave that box because there is nothing bigger than a 9. That's got to be a 5, just Sudoku, plus 3 and 7, I'm going to say. And then this is clearly not a 2. That's a 1. The 2 is in here, and this is a 9. Fantastic. Right. Again, because of the whole not touching orthogonally thing, we know that the line has to go through it. So the only way this works, because remember, you're going straight through the circles, so it's either doing that, which is impossible because it'll be touching itself orthogonally. Yeah, I'm going to go with that because even if it turns, that's still touching in my mind orthogonally. So it has to do as follows. And it has to go straight through and it needs to turn, but we've already accepted that it's one turn is sufficient. It doesn't have to be two, as is demonstrated here in the beginning. We also know that this is now the start of a new thermometer. So we think about what is the remaining sets of digits, 1, 2, and 8. This clearly has to be the bigger digit. This has to be the this has to be the smaller digit. This has to be the bigger digit. This has to be odd, so I'm fairly sure that's the 1. That is not a 1. 2, 8. Now, if it exits, which it can, this box, and almost certainly has to, because you see, otherwise, whatever I end up doing, I'll touch on orthogonally. So let's imagine for a second I turn into the box. Now I have to exit, and then I've touched orthogonally. So I'm fairly sure that I have to turn here, but that also means that doesn't have to be a 2. It can actually get away with being an 8. Make sense? Because since I'm exiting, I'm resetting, it's not an issue. Anyway, so if this is 2, that's going to be 4, that's going to be 8. If this is 8, that's going to be 4, that's going to be 2. So this is definitely a 4 in all scenarios. This is 2 or 8 being even. And I feel like I've broken the puzzle. Well, I've broken the puzzle, I think, with this line. Of course, I could have just carried straight on and then turned. That would be totally valid. And then I've turned inside the square, and then I'm going straight through, not like that, the circle, and I've already turned before it, so this can do whatever it wants. But it does say that this is definitely 2, this is definitely 8. So that's 2, that's 8, and therefore that is also 8. Lovely. Now I've reset my thermometer here. So in terms of 13579, it's clearly not going to be a 9. Don't think it can be a 7 either, because that would be 9, and then I'm stuck. I can't exit. I don't have enough. So it's 135 or 7. Got 3 consecutive digits. I mean, technically I can do 5, 6, 7. Can I do 2 evens? So I have 2 and 6 left. Sorry, where am I going with this when I just said that? In essence, when I've got 3 cells, either it's 2 even digits with an odd digit, or it's an even digit with 2 odd digits. And I've already used the 4 and 8. So the only way this would work is 2 and 6 and some magic odd digit that joins up these two. That's not going to happen. So this is 2 or 6. Now, if this is 2, one of them is a 1, which isn't going to happen. So this is definitively a 6. And then these 2 cells are definitively a 5, 7 pair. That removes 5 from it being an option in here. Now, the rest of these are going to be actually 4, 6. The 2 is somewhere in these 2 cells because that's odd. It's not 5 or 7. This is 1, 3, or 9. Lovely. You can see how I could turn into the 8, turn into the 9, and then exit, and that's fine. If I go down here, that's a turn into the circle, have to go straight through, and then that doesn't work. Sorry, let me show you, let me illustrate it. So we've got 2 options around the circle. Either you're doing kind of this as an option, or it's that as an option. Blue works because I can make this 8, I can make this 9, and then I've exited and I've reset my thermometer. This doesn't, because essentially this cell has to be bigger than that, so that wouldn't be a 9. And then this would have to be a 3. Given I've used a 1, 3 pair, this is the lower digit, so 1, 2, 2.5, 3 doesn't work. So green, not an option. Blue is an option. And therefore this would have to be 9. And then these are 1, 2, 3. That has to be smaller than whatever this is, so that's not a 1. In fact, has to be, sorry, that would have to be the 1 to be smaller than whatever this is. And then 2 or 3, and both are valid options at this point. I couldn't turn immediately after the circle here. So yes, I definitely have to exit. I think that's all I can see at the moment. I think when you see a combo of square and circle like that, it's going to always force the line as such. Because you see, the challenge you're going to have is if you go through it horizontally, and then whatever option you go with the square, the lines are going to touch orthogonally. So long way of saying, you have to go through it like that. I can't turn in here because then I will be touching orthogonally in some shape or form. So I'm fairly sure this is now correct. And then the rule is from squares is that I continue. They have to be straight after and straight before, and then I've turned before the circle, so it could be whatever. I am fairly confident now that we have to go through this circle that the only option is that. Clearly, the blue option creates a ton of issues for us with orthogonally connected lines, so this is the only option. This is not 1, 5, or 7, so this is 3 or 9. Both work, because I could definitely do a 1, a 3, and that's fine. And then that would be a 2 here. That is not going to work, actually. Sorry, excuse me. So if this is 3, this would have to be 1 or 2. Can't be 2. This would have to be 1. Consecutive, this would have to be 2, but I don't have it available in the column. So odd digit, not 1, 5, or 7. So from 3 or 9, we've just demonstrated this has to be a 9. And then this is a digit that is lower than 9. Not very useful. Right, low digit that is a black Kropke dot digit going to a higher black Kropke dot digit. It's not a 3, 6 pair. So 1, 2. No, remember, this is odd. So this would have to be, what are the odd digits that work? I'm so confused. What have I done? Because the only odd digits are the 1 and 3. And if this is odd and a black Kropke dot digit, has to be 1 or 3. Oh yeah, it's the entry of a new box. This doesn't have to be the smaller digits. Sorry. So that is 1, and therefore that is 2. Yeah, that's all good. And then this is an even digit that is not 2, 6, or 8. It can only be a 4. And I think we kind of have enough here. Might need to do a bit of Sudoku to make progress. I mean, we know that digits are increasing, and this is not a 5 or 6. So this is 7, 8, or 9. It's clearly not an 8. And then it can't be a 9 because there's still another digit. So this has to be 7. Therefore, that's 3. That's 7. This has to be a 9 because it's odd and bigger than the 7. And then I have to go straight through the circle. And then because I haven't turned here, I must turn. But obviously, if I turn to the right, that is problematic. I'll be touching orthogonally. I'm going to have to turn to the left. Lovely. I do feel like I do need to do a bit of Sudoku to clean up what's going on here. So what am I doing? It's clearly not a 2, 3 pair. It's not a 3, 4 pair. I mean, 5, 6 looks like the only option that does work. 6, 7 is not available. 7, 8, 8, 9 doesn't work. So there's a 5, 6 pair in here. That is 7. That is 5. Up there is, I'm going to say 2, 8, and something. 3. This is not 2. This is not 3. This is not 8 or 2 for that matter. So that's 3. That's 8. That's 2. Then 5, 6. So if this is 5, that's 6. Technically, I can go back to 5. Nothing's stopping me from doing that. Just having a look essentially in the column, I've got 7 and 8. So whatever this is going lower. So if it's 6, it's going to 5. Admittedly, if it's 5, it could go to 6. But I can also go 5, 4. Not great. Haven't resolved these either. This is a low digit. I mean, I may as well pencil mark the rest of this. So this is 1 or 2, 3, or 5. Not 1 or 3, not 2 or 5, and this could be any. Then let's pencil mark this again. So we've got another 2, 3, a 4, and an 8. And because this could turn, like, I mean, I can get away with a lot of things in here. It's not an 8. That's the only thing that I can say. That can't be a 5 because it would be bigger than whatever option I have in here. So that's not a 5. The only place for a 5 in the row now is there. Very good. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. So we know what this is. This is 5. No, this is 6, 7, 9. Not 6 or 7, so that's the 9. This is a 6, 7 pair. And then if this is 2, that can't be 1 or 3, so that's not a 2. It's not a 3 or a 4. This has to be an 8. That can't be 9. Oh, it can be, actually. I could do 9 and 8. Nope, it's not a 9. Never mind. So that is definitely 7. It can go back up to 8, but it can also go down to 6. 7 in here tells me that's 6 and 7. No 8 in here. So I end up with a 1, 2, 3, 4 group there. Definite 4. Not a lot. Actually, 5 gives me 6 and 5. That tells me this is 4 or 6, both of which are options. And then the rest of this column is 4, 6. 3, 3, 4, 6. Don't know. This is an odd digit that is not 9 or 7. 1, 3, or 5. Again, don't know. It's not a 9. You see, where am I going with this is I'm just taking a look at the path again. And I'm making the decision that the path can't exit this way because even if that 7 goes up to 8, I still need to have digits that are bigger than it to exit the box. And if I'm stuck in this cell, that would have to be a 9 so that I can exit and then onto this cell, which it cannot be a 9. So I'm definitely not exiting the path here, but both of these, this one and that one, both work. They don't. Because of the circle, of course, because then that would be orthogonally connected. So that's not going to work. So that has to go through, has to go in here. And then I'm going to say it has to exit this way. Because I have to turn a corner after a circle or before it, and I haven't turned before it. And obviously if I go that way, to be fair, I can go that way. If it's ending somewhere in here, nothing's stopping that. So I know it's turning, but I don't actually have any confidence about the direction. It's a bit of a shame. Let's have a think. In the column, what am I missing? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it seems. It's not a lot to go on. And this cell being smaller than 9, again, not a lot to go on. It could be 1. No, it can't be because of the 2 in here. Can't be 2. Could it be 3 with a 4? Yes. It can't be 4. Could it be 5? Presumably 5 with a 4 or a 6? Yes. Could I do 6 here with a 5 there? Couldn't do 6 with a 7. Can't do 7, can't do 8, can't do 9. So these are all my options. This cell has to be bigger. I mean, remember, the rest of this column is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This cell has to be bigger than whatever this is. So that's not a 1, and that can't be a 5. So this is 1 or 3. So if this is 3, 4, that would be 6, that would be 1, that would be 8, and then that would be 5, which it can't be. So that can't be, whereas 5 in the row has to be on here. So there's definitely a 5 in one of these two cells, meaning that is not a 3. So it's either 5 to a 4, 6, or a 5 to a 6. Meaning I have a 4, 5, 6 triple, that is definitely an 8. This is definitely an even digit, so it's not 3 or 5. Whereas 5 in the column now, the only place for it is down here. I have to go through this cookie. So I am definitely turning in here and going straight through the circle. And because I've already turned, nothing's stopping me from going straight, other than the fact that I would be touching this orthogonally. Right, 4, 5, 6, meaning this is 1 or 3. It's not a 3. That's a 1. That's a 3. This would have to be bigger. That's a 4. That's not 4. It has to be odd. That is a 3. That's the culprit. I'm guessing we're turning into it because we couldn't go straight. And the culprit is another dog. I won't hear this. I can't hear this. I'm okay with it being a squirrel, but not a dog. 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5, 6. Could be anything, isn't it? We don't know the rules about the dog, do we? As in whether it's odd or even or any of that. So I think that's an 8-9 pair. I think that's a 5-7 pair. That's the 5, that's the 7. And I think it's Sudoku to kind of bring it home. So in the column here is 1, 6. In this column it's 2, 9. What have I got in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 7 pair. So that's not the 3. That's the 3. And then I need a 9, which can only be in here. 6, 4. That 6 tells me that's the 5. That forms a 4, 6 pair. No resolution. The 5 gives me a 7 and 5 at the top. There's a connection in here between an odd and an even. We've got 1, 3, 5, and 9 down. So this has a 7, which can only be in here, can only be a 6, not an 8, and therefore that's the 4, 6, 4. The 6 gave me the 1, the 6. 8, 9, and 2s, don't know. Let's finish up with a 1, a 3, a 2, 8, 9. This is a 2 or 8. And this is another 2 or 8. How am I not resolving this? Something is not quite right. 2 or 8. Of course, sorry, it's still a thermometer. So that's 8, that's 9, and therefore that is 2, 8, 9, and if I've not made any mistakes, 2 for the finish. Another phenomenal puzzle, Mrs. Sandra. And well done, Nala, for catching the culprit. I'm going to stick to it being a squirrel, not another dog. But I hope you guys enjoyed this puzzle and video. I really do love this series, of course, you know, as a dog owner. And that's probably it for now. I'll see you back soon. Bye-bye for now.